Stop what you are doing and listen. Truly, listen. Because the next few minutes will determine whether you spend the rest of your life as a drifter or as a creator. Look around you at the masses. The world is full of men who wait for physical proof before they dare to claim their power. They want to see the money in their bank account before they feel wealthy. They want the perfect opportunity to arrive before they prepare for it. And because they constantly wait for the evidence never comes. You know this frustrating feeling intimately. You work until your bones ache. You put in the long hours while the rest of the world safely sleeps. You formulate your plans and execute them with absolutely everything you have. And yet the massive breakthrough you were promised always seems to remain just out of reach. It feels as though you are pushing a heavy boulder up an endless mountain. You look at others who exert half your effort but reap tenfold the rewards. You look at the sky and ask why the universe is holding you back. I am here to tell you a harsh truth today. The universe is not holding you back. You do not have a work ethic problem. You have a deep programming problem. Deep within the architecture of your subconscious mind, there is a faulty script running on an endless loop. It is quietly sabotaging every conscious step you take toward building your empire. You are operating under the dangerous illusion that physical labor alone commands reality. But physical labor without mental dominion is just pure exhaustion. Society has conditioned you to be a passive consumer of reality rather than an active creator. You have been taught to observe your current circumstances and let them dictate your internal emotional state. If your bank account is empty, you feel incredibly poor. If your path is suddenly blocked, you feel utterly defeated. This is the ultimate trap of the drifter. You are constantly waiting for the outside world to change so that you can finally feel successful inside. But the fabric of reality simply does not work backward. The physical world is merely a mirror reflecting your dominant internal assumptions. It has absolutely no original thought of its own. It can only faithfully echo what you have already established as truth in your own mind. When you wait for solid proof, you are broadcasting a frequency of lack. You are telling the vast universe that you do not have it, and the universe simply agrees with your command and delivers more absence. Your subconscious is a tireless and obedient contractor. It builds exactly what you instruct it to build through your dominant daily feelings. It does not filter out the negative or attempt to shield you from your own destructive doubts. If you go to sleep feeling exhausted and defeated, your subconscious accepts that as your chosen identity. It spends the entire night manufacturing a reality that perfectly matches your quiet desperation. You are literally programming your own catastrophic failure while you rest. This is the invisible enemy you have been fighting your entire life. You attempt to command success through pure physical aggressive action. You grind and you sweat and you bleed for your ambitious goals. But inside your chest, you carry the heavy assumption that things might fail. You carry the fear of failure like a badge of honor. To build generational wealth, you must break this vicious cycle entirely. You must stop negotiating with your current limiting circumstances. Your current reality is nothing more than the delayed harvest of your past thoughts. It is old news and dead energy. The true creator does not look at the past to determine his bright future. He designs his future in the dark and demands that the physical world catch up. He operates on the absolute certainty of his own disciplined mind. Think of your mind as an incredibly powerful supercomputer. Right now, it is running a legacy operating system installed by your fears and your past failures. Every time you command a new program called wealth, the system crashes. It crashes because the foundational code is written entirely in the language of lack. You cannot install a wealthy future on a poverty-stricken hard drive. The mental code must be rewritten from the ground up. Most men never realize they have the immense power to rewrite this code. They accept their default programming and weakly call it their personality. They say things like, "I am just an anxious person," or "I have never been good with money." Those are not actual personality traits. Those are lazy excuses designed to protect a weak mindset. A sovereign commander takes radical responsibility for every line of code in his mental software. He refuses to harbor any passing thought that does not serve his empire. But right now, Your logical mind is fiercely demanding physical evidence. Your brain is screaming at you to look at the unpaid bills. It demands that you look at the closed doors. It tells you that assuming success is just foolish delusion. But let me ask you a serious question. Has your so-called realism brought you the life you deeply desire? Has staring intensely at your problems ever solved a single one of them? No. It has only multiplied your anxiety and anchored you deeper into the drift. It is time to fire your logical brain from the position of leadership. Logic is a useful tool for navigating the physical world, but it cannot create a new one. True creation requires you to step boldly beyond what is currently visible. You must assume the feeling of the end result before physical evidence exists. You must become the strict mental gatekeeper of your own expanding reality. You must protect your daily focus from the infectious doubt of the masses. Every single time you react to a negative circumstance, you feed it more power. You freely give it your precious life force. But when you look at a closed door and assume it is merely a detour toward victory, you strip it of its power. You quickly become an unstoppable magnetic force. The ordinary drifter constantly reacts to life. The sovereign commander confidently dictates it. He knows that his bold assumption is the only true reality. Everything else is just temporary shadows dancing on a wall. This is not about faking a forced smile when you are in pain. This is about absolute mental dominion. It is the ruthless discipline of choosing your internal state regardless of the external weather. You must deeply understand that your assumption is a literal command issued to reality. And until you learn exactly how to issue that command correctly, you will always be a servant to blind chance. Today, we systematically strip away the heavy illusions that have kept you chained. We will destroy the false belief that you must see it to truly believe it. You are going to learn the exact mechanism that forces reality to reorganize itself. You will no longer sit and wait for the universe to give you a sign. You are going to step up and become the sign. Prepare your mind for a massive shift. We are about to step into the architecture of true, unshakable power. But here's the truth that no one will tell you. The universe works by law, not by clock. It does not care how long you have been waiting, and it certainly does not care how much you have suffered in the past. The universe only responds to the precise frequency you are emitting right now. And that frequency is dictated by one timeless mechanism. It is called the law of assumption. This law is simple but demanding. It states that your assumption hardens into absolute reality. What you believe to be true becomes true. It does not matter if the physical evidence is completely absent today. If you assume the identity of a wealthy man, your mind begins to build wealth because your subconscious is a tireless contractor and it builds exactly what you instruct it to. Most men fundamentally misunderstand how reality is actually constructed. They think the physical world is the absolute truth. They look at their bank accounts and accept that number as their final fate. But the physical world is nothing but a delayed shadow, and it is merely the old harvest of your previous thoughts. To change the shadow, you must first change the object casting it. And that object is your dominant mental state. This brings us to the great divide among men. There is a massive difference between the drifter and the creator. The drifter is a leaf blowing helplessly in the wind. He allows his external circumstances to dictate his internal world, and if people treat him poorly, he automatically assumes he is entirely worthless. He reacts to everything and commands nothing. The drifter constantly waits for permission from the universe. He says he will be happy when he makes the money. He says he will be confident when he gets the promotion. He places all his power in the unpredictable hands of tomorrow, and because he waits, he remains trapped in the frequency of lack. He is begging the universe to give him a sign. But the universe does not respond to begging. It responds to authority. Enter the Creator. The Creator is the sovereign commander of his own mind. He understands that reality is commanded from the inside out. He does not look at his current circumstances to figure out who he is, but instead he decides who he is and forces the circumstances to bend to his iron will. He uses the law of assumption as his primary weapon. He acts as if the battle is already won. This is not some foolish game of pretend. Acting as if is a profound spiritual and mental protocol. It is the deliberate alignment of your thoughts and actions with your ultimate goal, and you walk like a man who has already conquered his massive mountains. When you act as if you send a shockwave through the system, your brain starts scanning the environment for matching evidence. Because you assume success, you start noticing opportunities that the drifter entirely misses. The drifter is too busy crying about how unfair the world is. The architect of destiny is laying bricks in the dark, and he does not need the crowd to cheer for his work. He already hears the applause in his own mind. This level of certainty makes the average man extremely uncomfortable. Average men will call you arrogant. They will tell you to be realistic and stay in your assigned lane. But realistic is just a polite word for average, and you were definitely not placed on this earth to live a realistic life. You were placed here to design an unstoppable empire. To do this, you must violently kill the drifter inside you. You must stop reacting to the temporary noise of your daily life. A bill comes in the mail, and you panic. That panic is the drifter stepping back into power. You face a sudden rejection, and you immediately doubt your entire path, and that doubt is the drifter begging for his old comfortable chains. You must become cold and calm in the face of adversity. The creator sees a massive setback and simply calls it data. He does not attach his self-worth to a temporary delay. He understands that every single thought is a seed and every action is water, so your reality is always the inevitable harvest. If you plant weeds of doubt, you cannot expect a harvest of golden wheat. The law of assumption requires your absolute loyalty. You cannot act like a king in the morning and cry like a victim at night. A divided mind is a defeated mind. You must lock in your desired frequency and hold it there by strict force. You must assume that every delay is actually divine protection, and you must assume that every rejection is just a vital redirection toward victory. This is how you become a magnetic force in the world. People will start to look at you differently. They will feel a heavy presence when you enter the room. They will not understand why they are drawn to your energy. It is because you are no longer vibrating with desperate need, but you are vibrating with the certainty of a man who already owns the world. You do not chase wealth. Wealth is magnetized by the man who operates from abundance. The drifter chases money, and it constantly runs away from him. The master of fate assumes he is already abundant, and because he assumes it, he behaves differently in his business, and he speaks with deep authority instead of nervous hesitation. He takes calculated risks because he cannot lose. He knows that failure is just an illusion. It is merely a stepping stone on the path to his ultimate dominion. Let me make this incredibly clear to you. Your assumption is the only thing that actually matters right now. If you assume you are a failure, you are absolutely right. And if you assume you are a creator, you are also absolutely right. The universe simply nods and delivers. You might be sitting there with a head full of stubborn doubts. Your logical brain is still fighting desperately for its survival. It is telling you that this sounds too simple to be the ultimate truth. But I promise you that logic alone will only take you to the middle of the pack. To reach the absolute pinnacle of human achievement, you must transcend this basic logic. You must elevate your mind into the realm of pure, unshakable assumption. But you might still be wondering if this actually works in the real world. You might need to see how the greatest titans of history applied this protocol. Let us look to the example of men who built massive empires from nothing, because the profound evidence of their lives will destroy your remaining doubt forever. Let us look to the example of Thomas Edison and Henry Ford. These titans of industry were not men of magic. They were men of absolute and unshakable assumption. They did not sit around and hope for success. While the masses waited for proof, these men knew the physical world was just a slow reflection. They commanded their empires into existence long before anyone else could see them. Consider Thomas Edison and the invention of the brilliant light bulb. The drifter looks at 1,000 failed experiments and quits in total despair. The drifter cries that the universe is blocking his path. But Edison was a true architect of destiny. He assumed the light bulb already existed in perfect form. And because he held this image clearly, he just needed the physical materials to finally catch up to his mental reality. Edison did not wait for the bulb to glow before he believed in it. He held the vision with absolute iron discipline. He called his thousands of failures mere physical data. The Creator never takes a temporary setback personally. Instead of whining about unfairness, he simply adjusts his strategic approach and continues his relentless march forward. This is the exact difference between a master of fate and a victim of circumstance. Now look at Henry Ford and his famous V8 engine. Ford wanted 8 cylinders cast in a single solid block. He gathered his top engineers and gave them the firm command. His highly educated engineers laughed directly in his face. They brought him all the scientific evidence of why it could not be done, and they told him that his vision was physically impossible. They were speaking the tragic language of limitation. Ford absolutely refused to accept their limited physical reality. He looked at them and simply commanded them to produce it anyway. He acted as if the engine was already built and functioning perfectly. He ordered them to stay on the job until they succeeded, regardless of the time it took. And eventually the physical world had no choice but to completely bend. Ford forced the universe to submit to his assumption. These men were not lucky or specially blessed by the universe. They were utilizing a profound mechanism that modern science is only now beginning to understand. This is absolutely not some mystical fairy tale. It is cold and hard biological brain science. When you act as if, you are literally changing the physical structure of your brain before the result appears. Let me explain exactly how this works inside your head today. You have a built-in filter called the reticular activating system. It is a bundle of nerves sitting directly at the base of your brainstem. It acts as the ultimate and ruthless mental gatekeeper. Every single second, millions of bits of information flood your physical senses. If your conscious brain processed all of it, you would instantly go insane from the noise. So your reticular activating system filters out almost everything. It only lets through the specific information that you deem absolutely important. And how do you tell this mental gatekeeper what is truly important? You instruct it through your dominant thoughts and your heavy emotional assumptions. If you constantly worry about being broke, your gatekeeper goes to work. Because you focus on poverty, it actively filters out all the incredible opportunities for wealth around you. It only shows you evidence of your lack. The drifter programs his gatekeeper with pure toxic fear. Therefore, his reality constantly confirms his absolute worst nightmares. But the sovereign commander programs his brain with the assumption of total victory. When you act as if you are wealthy, your gatekeeper rapidly changes its filter. Suddenly you start seeing the hidden connections, and you spot the massive opportunities that were always there. Your mind forces you to notice the path to power. These massive opportunities did not just magically appear out of thin air today. They were always present in your immediate physical environment. You were just completely blind to them because your filter was set to failure. This is exactly why the law of assumption is a biological fact. You must program the physical machine before the machine can produce the magnificent results. And this scientific reality goes even deeper than just your filter. Modern neuroscience clearly proves the profound concept of neuroplasticity. Your brain is not a fixed block of concrete. It is highly moldable and responds directly to your commands. Every time you think a thought, you fire a specific neural pathway. If you repeat that thought daily, the weak pathway becomes a massive superhighway of information. The Creator deliberately fires the pathways of success and authority over and over again. Even if his current reality is painful, he forces his brain to fire differently, by acting as if he literally builds the physical architecture of a wealthy mind. He fundamentally rewires his own biology long before the money ever shows up. But there is a biological enemy inside you trying to stop this evolution. It is your amygdala, and this is the ancient fear center of your primitive brain. This center is designed to keep you trapped in the known. Your primitive amygdala wants to keep you perfectly safe and absolutely comfortable. It deeply hates rapid change, and it fiercely hates the unknown. When you start acting like a king, your amygdala instantly panics. It screams at you to look at your empty bank account and demands that you stop taking risks. It wants you to go back to being a quiet drifter. You must ruthlessly override this primitive fear response today. You must look your biological fear in the face and command it to sit down. This is the ultimate form of internal mental warfare. When you firmly push past the fear and hold your assumption, the amygdala eventually surrenders. Your brain finally accepts the new reality as the absolute truth. And once the brain accepts it, the external world inevitably follows suit. This is the unbroken law of the universe at work. This is the exact biological mechanism that Edison and Ford exploited brilliantly. They did not know the modern scientific terms of neuroplasticity, but they knew how to govern their own minds with an iron fist. They refused to let their physical circumstances dictate their internal frequency. Because they commanded their systems to only find solutions, they built their empires in the mind first. They were masters of their biology. You now have the absolute, undeniable proof in your hands. You have clearly seen the historical evidence of the 1%. You deeply understand the biological machinery operating inside your own skull. Ignorance is no longer a valid excuse for your continued suffering. You can no longer claim that monumental success is just a matter of blind luck or timing. You are the sovereign architect of your magnificent destiny. The drifter hears this profound science and does absolutely nothing to change. The creator hears this exact same information and immediately takes massive control. But knowing the scientific facts is only the very first step of the journey. You must put this knowledge into brutal and consistent daily practice. How do you actually program this biological machine when the lights go out tonight? Now let us make this knowledge incredibly practical. Now let us make this profound knowledge intensely practical. Theory without brutal execution is just sophisticated entertainment. And you are definitely not here to be briefly entertained today, because you are here to fundamentally alter the very fabric of your reality. The drifter reads the books and feels instantly inspired, but he never changes his daily physical habits. The sovereign commander knows that physical action locks in the new frequency. You must begin to embody the end result immediately. You must literally act as if the victory is already yours. This starts with your physical posture right in this exact moment. Sit up straight and pull your tired shoulders back right now so you can command your physical body to reflect absolute and unshakable power. Do not walk through the world with your head bowed down in defeat. The way you physically move dictates your internal biological state. When you walk like a defeated victim, you signal your ancient brain to release heavy stress chemicals into your bloodstream. You must walk like a man who owns the very ground he steps on. Walk with deliberate purpose and total unbreakable confidence. Even if your bank account is completely empty, you must carry yourself like a king. Wealth is an energy signature long before it is printed paper. If you slouch and hide, you are broadcasting a frequency of absolute fear. Stop shrinking yourself to make average people feel perfectly comfortable around you while you slowly destroy your own massive potential. Expand your chest and take up the space you truly deserve. Next, you must ruthlessly audit every single word that leaves your mouth. Your spoken words are literal commands issued directly to the vast universe. The drifter constantly complains about how terribly broke he is. He tells everyone who will listen about his tragic misfortune, and he proudly reinforces his own invisible prison walls every single day. You will never be a victim again. You must immediately eliminate all weak language from your daily vocabulary. You will never again say that you are struggling or that life is too hard. When you look at an empty bank account, you see a beautiful blank canvas. You speak only of your massive vision and your ultimate absolute victory, because you are the true architect of destiny and you completely command reality. Speak your words with deadly intention. But how do you handle the brutal pressure of your current physical reality? How do you act like a king when the final massive bill arrives? This is the exact moment where the fake creators always break and run. They panic and completely abandon the profound law of assumption. They allow the terrifying physical illusion to utterly crush their new mental frequency before the universe can finally deliver the result. You must deeply understand that a financial crisis is merely a cosmic test. It is the universe checking to see if your new frequency is actually real. When the massive bill arrives, you must hold your ground with cold calmness. You do not panic, and you absolutely do not beg for a sudden miracle from the sky. You look at the threatening number and you simply laugh in its pathetic face, because you know your ultimate victory is already secured in the unseen realm. You declare silently that this temporary lack means absolutely nothing to your future. You remind yourself that your internal wealth is completely untouchable. You act as if the money to pay it has already been dispatched to you. This level of cold detachment from physical reality is your true superpower, and it firmly forces the chaotic external world to rapidly realign itself with your new unshakable standard. Now we must establish the most critical ritual of your entire day. It is the 15 sacred minutes right before you fall asleep every single night. Your subconscious is a tireless contractor standing by for your final evening orders. Whatever dominant feeling you carry into your deep sleep will be massively multiplied by morning. The drifter takes his heavy anxiety directly into his bed, and he replays his painful mistakes while his mind spirals into absolute darkness. He falls asleep frantically, worrying about his many failures and his deep debts, and his faithful subconscious spends 8 solid hours building more painful failure. You must fiercely protect those final 15 minutes like your life depends on it, because your glorious future life literally does depend on those crucial final moments. You must perform total cosmic housekeeping every single night without fail. Turn off the screens and completely disconnect from the noisy, chaotic world. Do not let the toxic news of the masses infect your sacred mental temple. Close your eyes and breathe deeply to center your racing, anxious thoughts. I command you to mentally review your day and aggressively delete the heavy failures. If someone insulted you today, you must mentally rewrite that specific interaction in your mind, and you must completely replace their harsh words with profound respect. If you failed at a major task, you must visualize yourself succeeding brilliantly instead. You literally revise your physical history inside the private theater of your own mind. Then you must clearly visualize the ultimate end result you deeply desire. Do not try to figure out how the massive victory will physically happen. The physical how is absolutely none of your conscious business right now, because the universe handles the intricate logistics of your success. You must only focus on the profound feeling of the vision finally fulfilled. Feel the heavy relief and the profound gratitude of the massive victory. Feel the solid weight of the gold in your own commanding hands. Say this powerful statement aloud right now in the quiet darkness of your room, and let it echo deep in your chest until your very bones completely believe it. You are the absolute master of fate. You fall asleep bathed in the absolute certainty that it is already done. When you do this correctly, you hand your subconscious a perfect blueprint. While your conscious mind rests, your internal contractor goes straight to hard work. It works flawlessly through the dark night to draw incredible opportunities toward you, and it systematically removes the invisible blockages that kept you trapped in poverty. You wake up with a quiet power that average men simply cannot understand. You wake up knowing that you are an unstoppable force of pure creation. The drifter wakes up dreading the loud alarm and the painful daily grind, but the creator wakes up eager to claim the physical harvest he commissioned overnight. This night ritual is not optional for the strong man who wants to conquer. It is the absolute non-negotiable law of the 1%, and you must apply it with ruthless consistency every single day of your life. Are you starting to realize the massive power you have carelessly ignored? You have let the noisy external world push you around for way too long. You have allowed weak men to completely dictate your internal emotional state. But tonight, you draw a permanent and violent line in the shifting sand. You are stepping away from the exhausted masses, and you are boldly entering a sacred realm where failure is simply no longer an option. The time for comfortable illusions is officially over. You have heard the absolute, unshakable law of the universe today. You now deeply understand the massive biological machinery operating quietly inside your own head. Every excuse you have ever made was nothing but a fragile shadow. And while you used to believe that your struggles were permanent, you now know that you can actively rewrite your entire future with a single thought. You can no longer blame your parents or your terrible boss. You can no longer claim that society is actively rigged against your glorious success. Society is absolutely designed to keep the masses trapped at the very bottom. But your continued presence at the bottom is entirely because you allow it, and you have permitted the careless drifter to steer your ship for way too long. That weak version of you must die today. I am looking directly at your fragile ego right now in this exact moment. The victim inside you desperately wants to close this video and go back to sleep. The victim wants to return to the comfortable warmth of constant complaining. It feels perfectly safe to be helpless because then nothing is ever your fault, but playing the helpless victim will ultimately cost you your entire beautiful life. Are you genuinely willing to sacrifice your grand empire just to protect your fragile feelings? Will you let your precious life slip away while you passively wait for a sudden miracle? The universe is waiting for a perfect version of you to finally stand up. It wants a disciplined thinker who has boldly chosen to rise above the loud mental noise because that powerful man is already living quietly inside of you. And it is time to wake him up with brutal, unyielding force right now. You must boldly say to yourself that there will be absolutely no more small thinking. There will be no more playing the pathetic victim to your passing physical circumstances. You will never again let toxic fear write the final script of your magnificent destiny, and you must accept that your dark, tragic chapter is completely over. A totally new, glorious chapter begins right now with a violent and absolute decision. You are literally one bold decision away from unstoppable, massive momentum. You are one major mental shift away from a completely new and powerful reality. But that massive shift will definitely not happen unless you forcefully make it happen yourself. So I am issuing a direct and unapologetic challenge to you today. I invite you to make a final life or death decision right in this exact moment. You must permanently burn the heavy bridge back to your old pathetic identity. You cannot build a new wealthy life while desperately clinging to your old poverty. You cannot serve two opposing masters in the sacred temple of your mind, and one of them must be completely destroyed tonight without a single ounce of mercy. Kill the drifter without any weak hesitation or tragic regret. Step fully into the demanding shoes of the sovereign commander of your fate. There is absolutely no neutral thought in this vast energetic universe. Every single thought is either pushing you rapidly forward or dragging you heavily backward. Your daily thoughts are either moving you toward ultimate freedom or they are actively reinforcing your heavy, permanent bondage. The Creator realizes this profound truth and treats his dominant thoughts as dangerous weapons. He absolutely refuses to entertain the toxic whispers of the massive crowds who failed. You must immediately become the ruthless mental gatekeeper of your own expanding empire. You must vigorously defend your internal frequency against the constant brutal attacks of the ordinary masses because your ultimate survival completely depends on your absolute focus. So what will your great historical legacy actually be when you leave this earth? Will you be remembered as the weak man who allowed daily doubt to completely define him? Or will you be remembered as the unstoppable force who looked fear in the face and laughed? You are the absolute architect of your reality, and the world has no choice but to bend. So you must stand up right now and claim your rightful throne. The time for aimless drifting is officially and permanently over for you today. Tonight, as you close your tired eyes, you must make a final binding choice. Will you cowardly return to the chaotic noise of the failing, miserable masses? Or will you boldly step into the quiet, unshakable power of the 1%? If you are truly ready to command your magnificent destiny, you must aggressively seal your profound decision. You must do it right now before the weak drift pulls you back under the deep water. Leave your sacred vow in the comments section directly below this profound lesson. Write down your definite purpose and loudly state your absolute final commitment. Let those carefully typed words be the unbreakable contract you sign directly with the universe, and I command you to write that you are the master of your fate. These will not be just empty, meaningless words typed on a glowing glass screen. They will be your binding, eternal promise to the higher power that watches your every move. When you declare your intention publicly, you force your stubborn subconscious to completely align. You draw a heavy line in the sand that you can absolutely never cross again, so you must do it right now and seal your glorious fate forever. This ancient wisdom is incredibly heavy and profoundly dangerous to the weak-minded fool. It will absolutely not serve you if you only hear it one single time and walk away. If you let it quickly fade into the loud, chaotic noise of tomorrow, you will totally fail. The subconscious requires brutal repetition to actually build a completely new internal world, and therefore I strongly expect you to listen to this lesson again and again. Play this powerful message as you peacefully sleep in the dark silence of your room. Play it as you fiercely work on your ambitious goals during the bright, demanding day. Make these powerful principles the only voice you ever tolerate inside your own head. Break free once and for all from the heavy, suffocating shackles of negative thinking, because your strictly disciplined mind is the only true gateway to your absolute freedom. Your carefully chosen thoughts are the master key, and your beautiful destiny is waiting eagerly. Never again let a passing negative thought decide your ultimate bright and wealthy future. Subscribe to this channel right now if this sacred tradition of power is truly yours. Join the elite ranks of the few who absolutely refuse to drift mindlessly through life, and remember that your glorious new reality begins in this exact precise moment.